Hey Navigators, today I am in Winter Garden. Got my bike ready to go. We are going to check out this small little town. I've heard it's got an amazing main street, which that's the best thing about these small towns. But there may be some other hidden gems my son indicated when he suggested I go here, but he didn't really tell me about it. So I'm gonna have to ride around and see if I can find it. So let's hit the road. Today we're in Orange County, southwest of Orlando, to enjoy a ride through the city of Winter Garden, a former citrus town that reinvented itself and prospered without losing its old Florida charm. Hey Navigators, it is about 5:48 in the morning, heading out towards the little town of Winter Garden. Gotta get some gas. I got a light on that says I have a low tire, gonna check that out. Gosh, you can't see me, can you? Speaking of low tires, I found out when I was putting my bike up on my rack last night that on the carrier that there was this small little piece of metal that was stuck in the tire. It was in the thicker part of the tire, so I don't know if it's leaking. So I checked the pressure. It was okay, but I filled it up a little bit, so we'll see how it goes. Hopefully it doesn't become a problem. But the weather's amazing, and we got to take advantage of this. And so, yeah, got about a 2-hour drive, and gonna fill up on some gas, get the tire in my truck filled up, and hopefully my tire on my Navi will be fine. Well, the sensor must be bad because all the tires are filled, and I had a sensor issue when I bought this truck used, so it's probably that. But at least I also know I have the right air in the tires for the trip, so I'm gonna fill up, get some food and drink, and we're gonna hit the road. That's funny, with a truck you don't think it's a lot, like a quarter of a tank, but it's 7 gallons. I did not have my Navigator hat on. What was I thinking? I like to save that for when I'm on the road because I don't want it to get too dirty. Hey everybody, we are about 20 minutes away from Winter Garden. What's great is that they have these toll roads which eliminate going through downtown Orlando. My wife and I lived in Orlando quite a few years ago, and the traffic as you get to the theme parks is really, really unpleasant. Also, one of our viewers suggested Stuart, Florida, and I looked up that. I'd heard about it. It's over on the other coast, and it looks adorable as well. So I just have to, I haven't gone on the east coast of Florida yet because that's a long drive just to get there. Again, I'm trying to make everything within 2 to 3 hours of driving and coming home with traffic so that I can do it all within like an 8-hour day. So I want to find a time to get to Stuart and the other places that have been recommended by viewers, so that's been great. But I haven't figured that out logistically yet. So when I do, Stuart, Florida is going to be one of the first places I go. Now today's ride is also, it's a twofer. I'm going to visit 2 cities today, 2 little towns. So should be a fun day, man, on my Navi. I can't wait. Well, here we are, Navigators, entering Winter Garden. Now, my wife and I lived in Orlando for quite some time, and we never made it to Winter Garden. We'd made it to Winter Springs, but that doesn't count. That's a different ride. Now, long before the first American settler ever laid eyes on this land, someone else called it home. But here's where our story gets mysterious because we don't actually know who. Historians debate whether the native peoples that once lived here were the Timucua, the Jororo, oh my gosh, I'm probably getting all these names wrong, or the Mayaka, or something sounding similar. Anyway, but we're not really sure because there are no real records about that. But what we do know is that in the 1850s, when the first American pioneers arrived, they were drawn by something irresistible, the fertile muck land bordering Lake Apopka. No, seriously, the Roper family came, so did the Reams, the Dunaways, the Spears, and the Starks. And they built their lives here, planting sugarcane and vegetable in the soil that seemed to promise abundance. But then came the Civil War, and suddenly Winter Garden's families found themselves cut off. Steamboat traffic along the St. Johns River stopped. There were no supply lines, no outside help. These settlers had to learn to survive on what they could grow themselves. And fortunately, they did. After the war, Florida's warm climate and fertile soil became legendary. You know, and this reminds me, I don't know if you ever watched that Ken Burns documentary on the Civil War. It came out, 20, 30 years ago. But one of the things I remember one of the historians mentioning is that over the course of the Civil War, the soldiers basically walked the nation from one end to the other. Now, this is before transportation was readily available except through trains, so it would be rare for anyone to know the lands and to have walked the land of all these states, to have personal understanding and experience with all of these locations. It's one of the reasons they credit the United States actually being united after the war, because everyone that fought in the war had personal experience in all of these locations. And so it doesn't surprise me that with all the technological limitations of communication back then, that Florida, because of the war and because of the soldiers that went there, would be able to take that information back about Florida to their homes. And that's probably one of the reasons that so many people after the war sought new opportunities in the South. And when they came down, many of them saw the golden promise of citrus. Central Florida, with its relatively mild winters, proved perfect for growing oranges. Well, we're back here looking at Lake Apopka. Now, if you remember the Claremont episode, where we went on Sugarloaf Mountain Road up to the top of one of the highest peaks in Florida, in the distance you could see this massive lake. And from Winter Garden, Claremont is to your left. All right, that was a nice little detour. Now let's get back to Winter Garden's story. Now, among the settlers was a man from Mississippi, and his name was A.B. Newton. Now, Newton wasn't just any settler. No, this guy was a force of nature. Here's just part of the list of his accomplishments. He opened one of the first stores. He became the first postmaster, which, if you've been on any of these rides with me before, you know that's a big deal. He founded the first newspaper. And when the town needed leadership, he became its first mayor. And that's why the people in the area called him the Godfather of Winter Garden. Now, I'm always fascinated with how these towns get their names. And oftentimes, as I've said, it's never a direct path. And Winter Garden is no different, because in the early days, This little settlement was actually called Beulah. Now, Beulah is from the Bible, and it's a Hebrew word for married. And back then it was just an agricultural town, simple, it was growing. But when the Tavares and the Gulf Railroad arrived in 1886, well, that sort of connection changed everything. Suddenly, this wasn't just a local farming community. This place could ship its produce anywhere. The term winter garden described areas where citrus could grow successfully despite cold snaps, regions where mild winters allowed citrus trees to thrive. So the residents of Beulah recognized what they had: land that was slightly inland, buffered against the harsh coastal freezes, and perfect for citrus cultivation. So in 1893, they made it official. Beulah became Winter Garden. And the name proved prophetic. Winter Garden's groves burst with oranges and grapefruits and tangerines. The fruit was shipped throughout the United States and even overseas. And when the Orange Belt Railroad joined the growth, stores and businesses sprouted up all along Plant Street, which created what would become downtown Winter Garden. And then Winter Garden had to face another test. As with all citrus-growing Floridians at the time, one of the most devastating events was the Great Freeze of 1894 and 1895. This was catastrophic. The temperatures plummeted and citrus trees died by the thousands. Groves that had taken years to cultivate were wiped out overnight. Many farmers simply gave up. They abandoned their land and left. But not everyone left. The ones who stayed, they replanted. They developed new techniques to protect their crops. They rebuilt wooden bridges along Plant and Main Streets, and when two devastating fires destroyed those wooden structures, they rebuilt them again, this time with brick. And that sort of resiliency is interesting because there's a reality that comes with not having any other choices. You know what I mean? And I don't mean that to diminish anyone's resilience or the ability to overcome challenges. But I've had some health issues in my life, and sometimes they've been pretty difficult. And people will say, man, I don't know how you dealt with it or how you got through with it. I'm like, well, I woke up and I was still alive, and what else was I going to do? Like, you have to go through it. You have to manage your way, right? You can't give up. You're still breathing. So I love that these people stayed and they rebuilt. Because at the end of the day, what other choice did they have? Are you getting hungry? Yep, it's that time again. Time to feed Algo the Algorithm. As you know, no Google employee or YouTube employee is watching these videos to decide whether it should be shared with others. That's done through computer algorithms. Now the big challenge is all this AI-generated content. It's flooding YouTube. So if you want to support a real person, me, riding my motorcycle through real towns and sharing this town's histories with the story and the research that I looked up, well, if you could just, push buttons, write things, whatever you want to do is fine. You don't have to, but that's the sort of input that tells the algorithms that this video and others that I have on this channel should be shared with other people that like Winter Garden or motorcycles or small town histories or all of the above. So if you could just take a minute to push buttons, say things, subscribe, whatever, I'd really, really appreciate it. It would mean a lot. By 1903, the town was officially established, and in 1908, Winter Garden was incorporated as a city, with, guess who? A.B. Newton, the Godfather himself, as its first mayor. The citrus industry roared back to life, and by 1920 the population had grown to over 1,000 people. Winter Garden had become the center of commerce and agriculture in West Orange County. Now, through the middle decades of the 20th century, citrus didn't just drive the economy, it defined the culture. Early residents either owned groves or worked in them, and as a result, the commercial district expanded as the industry flourished. But citrus wasn't the only draw. Lake Apopka had emerged as the largemouth bass capital, attracting fishermen from everywhere. And in 1927, the Edgewater Hotel opened in downtown Winter Garden to accommodate these visitors. From the 1920s through the 1960s, fishing was big business here. But prosperity never lasts forever. By the late 1960s, Winter Garden's rapid development slowed considerably. Lake Apopka had become severely polluted, and the fishing industry that had drawn thousands collapsed. And the construction of major highways drew businesses away from downtown. Then came the 1980s, and back-to-back freezes that echoed the Great Freeze nearly a century before. This time, citrus farming in Orange County never recovered. The center of Florida's citrus production shifted south. And as the Orlando, Kissimmee, Sanford metropolitan area developed, it became more profitable to sell grovelands to developers than to replant them. So the town that had defined itself by citrus watched its groves disappear. Now, Winter Garden could have become a ghost town, like a lot of other small towns where the major industry disappears. Its downtown could have crumbled into ruin, but once again, the people of Winter Garden refused to quit. Citizens and community leaders rallied to rescue the commercial district. They recognized what they had, an architectural heritage that survived fires and freezes and economic collapse. And as a result, in 1996, downtown Winter Garden was listed on the National Register of Historic Places. This adorable theater is called the Garden Theater, and it opened in December of 1935 as a single-screen cinema and was the first in Central Florida built for talkies. The warmly lit interior of the 299-seat theater has a Mediterranean Revival architecture with a Spanish tile courtyard, Romeo and Juliet-style balconies, and lanterns in the windows over the proscenium arch, with palm trees decorated on either side of it. As with most theaters after television, this theater closed in 1963. Fortunately, in 2002, the city of Winter Garden purchased the site, and the Winter Garden Heritage Foundation restored it and reopened it in 2008. While citrus remains an important part of Winter Garden's heritage, because every year they celebrate the Winter Garden Citrus Festival, the city has diversified past citrus, obviously. They rely on tourism and technology and all the other industries and mom-and-pop shops that have propped up and kept this downtown alive. It is an enjoyable ride over these brick-paved streets, even with my Navi's less-than-ideal suspension. But when you know the history while you're riding through these small towns, it makes the ride even that much more memorable. So here on your right is the Edgewater Hotel that was built back in the 1920s for all the visiting fishermen. And here it stands in all of its glory, right smack in the middle of downtown Winter Garden. And what I love is that this old building fits right in with the rest of the architecture, which means that all the developments around it matched and maintained that style. And that's awesome. Okay, here are some stats for you. Winter Garden is about 18 square miles and has a population of almost 47,300 people. Now, Winter Garden has about 15,500 residences with a median home value of about $583,000, with the average rent being about $3,000 a month. Now, as far as demographics go, 26% are under 18. That's a lot. 6% is between 18 and 24, 13% is between 25 and 34, 31% is between 35 and 54, 12% is between 55 and 64, and 13% is over 65. So to me, this sort of demo means that this is a very good family town, very family friendly, because the two largest demographics here are people between 35 and 54, which is the prime time to have a family, and the second biggest demographic are for children under 18. So obviously a good place for families. As far as education goes, 91% are high school grads, 4% are attending college, and 44% are college graduates. Now, the income per capita is about $44,000, which pretty much matches the national average. And the median household income is about $106,000, which is far more than the $79,000 national average. And 9% live below poverty level. 51% of the population is white, 24% is Hispanic, 11% is black, 7% is Asian, and 7% are two or more races. Now, this house on the left is called Meadow Marsh, but it's better known as the Tilden House. This house is a classical revival style and was designed by Frederick H. Trimble. It was built in 1905 for local citrus pioneer Luther Fuller Tilden, who owned land close by near Lake Apopka, which is just a few blocks away from here. Okay, here we're entering Oakland Park, and this neighborhood is insane. It is one of the most beautiful neighborhoods I've ridden through because not only do these homes appear to be new, but the design and architecture is so retro in a great way. They're old style, they have class, they capture kind of a, northern feel. It's not like a standard Florida home, that's for sure. I grew up with that, and I hate Florida homes. But this neighborhood, it's like a dream. I would love to live in this neighborhood. Now, there's no way I could ever afford this because, come on, these homes have got to be substantially out of my price range. But everyone seemed to be nice. They were all walking their dogs and waving to me and everything like that. But these homes were just, look at them, right? This neighborhood, it's on a boulevard. It's got these great views. It at the end of this, it overlooks Lake Apopka. This was so enjoyable. Look at these homes. These here are backed up to Lake Apopka. Their backyards overlooking that massive lake. Man, awesome. Now, I don't know, maybe it's just me, but I gotta say, whenever I ride my Navi through wealthier neighborhoods, I just look at these houses and I go, what do these people do for a living? What interest did they have that have been more profitable than mine that allows them to enjoy such a beautiful neighborhood? Seriously, this is probably my most favorite neighborhood with new Florida homes that I've ever ridden my Navi through. It is so peaceful, so great. It doesn't feel like this is put on for show or fake or anything like that. It just seems to be a really well-designed neighborhood with amazing homes.
And Navi-Gators. So I just got done riding through Winter Garden, and it was amazing. The downtown was cool. It's like a lot of really great downtowns, has awesome shops. It's kind of like gentrified. It looks amazing. But then I stumbled upon this idyllic neighborhood. I am so happy that my son recommended this place. It was a fun ride and just beautiful, just so beautiful. So this trip has 2 cities, so we're going to the next one, and what a great day. It's like 65 degrees with no humidity, 70 degrees. It's amazing. So I can't wait to get there and hit the road too. All right, I'll see you guys.
Well, Navigators, here we are at the end of another fun ride. Thank you so much for spending your time with me. As you know, I believe time is our most precious treasure. And the fact that you spent any of that time with me means the world to me. Thank you so much. And remember when you're out on the road today to be kind, to be safe, and to be generous to those around you. But most of all, have fun. All right, I'll see you guys next time.